Illinois football keeps the momentum going.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day. I provide you news of the orange and blue. I ask for nothing in return, except if you don't mind, if you could smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Again, I might be showing up on your algorithm and you may not even realize that you're not subscribed to the channel. So please make sure you are subscribed. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed on the audio side too. Trust me, those numbers help me a big amount when it comes to the Locked On Network. And, I'm trying to prove to them that they made the right choice in starting on Locked On Illini, and we've grown so fast, over 3,000 subs in a year, and I just want to continue that momentum and show them that Illini Faithful is a big, big audience. For today's episode, we're going to be talking the football recruiting. Obviously, Illinois football hosted a big recruiting weekend over this past weekend, and they were fortunate enough to get 2 commits out of it. I wanted to discuss this earlier. The first guy I'm going to talk about, he committed on Monday, but I decided to hold off a little bit because I knew, at least I had gotten wind, that they were expecting a second commitment, which just happened to occur while I was recording yesterday's episode. So if you catch yesterday's episode, in the beginning of the second segment, I literally got the notification that he had committed. So I figured today, it's a Wednesday, I can devote a full episode and give each player a segment of their own, so we can just kind of learn about the newest Illini. So Illinois football is rolling on the recruiting trail, and if you've been following the pattern, you're seeing a very deliberate strategy unfold. Bret Bielema and his staff know tight end is one of the biggest needs in the 2026 class. Now they've landed one of their top in-state targets. Of course, I'm talking about Will Vala from Downers Grove North. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I'm not. Vala, a 3-star prospect in the class of 2026, announced his commitment to Illinois on June 9th. He had Power 4 offers from Indiana, Kentucky, Louisville, Purdue, and Wisconsin. But at the end of the day, he chose the Illini. A massive in-state recruiting win and another brick in what's becoming one of the strongest recruiting foundations Bielema has laid since arriving in Champaign. So why does this matter? Well, let's be real. Tight end after this season is wide open. The veterans on the team right now are expected to move on, and the Illini simply don't have long-term depth behind them. This is a position where the coaching staff is clearly looking to retool and maybe even reshape the role in the offense. That's where Will fits in. He's not just another depth piece. This is a kid who could actually compete for early playing time once he arrives. You see, Vala stands at about 6'3" to 6'4". I've heard varying numbers, 220 to 225 pounds. Physically, he already looks the part. And more importantly, he plays like it. He's been described by recruiting outlets as a very multiple weapon on offense. That scouts speak for, we can line this guy up anywhere. Split him out wide, he can go get it. In tight on the line, he'll block. Line him up in the backfield, he'll make a play after the catch. And that's what Robbie Disher, Illinois' tight end coach, seems to love about him. Vala brings a blend of athleticism and toughness, the ability to separate in space while still being physical in the trenches. He's the type of tight end modern offenses are built around, in particular in college. As for Illinois recruiting, Illinois is expected to take 2 tight ends in this 2026 class, and Vala is the first domino to fall. He's also the 7th top 30 in-state recruit to join the class, which, again, is absolutely worth celebrating. You pair Vala with potential targets like J.C. Anderson or Mack Sutter, and you're suddenly reshaping the tight end room for the next 3 to 5 years. Add in 2025 tight end target, Logan Farrell, and you've got a nice mix of skill sets developing. But here's what I found most important about Vala's commitment. It shows that the Illinois is not only winning battles against the Big Ten Conference, but they're winning it with their in-state kids. That hasn't always been the case in the past decade, and is probably the biggest reason Illinois' 2026 class currently ranks number 15 nationally per 24/7. Vala told reporters he loved the Illinois program motto, family, with 2 L's. He said the culture was one where everyone is connected into a culture where anyone can be trusted to do their job. That kind of buy-in matters, especially from in-state guys who grew up watching this program and now want to be a part of turning it into something big. He also mentioned how impressed he was that Coach Bielema valued his ball skills, core flexibility, and the ability to be moved all over the field. That tells you how the staff sees him, as a chess piece, not a blocking first tight end, not a red zone only guy, but a true versatile threat. Now, most tight ends take a year or two to develop at the college level, and I think that'll be the case with Vala. But don't be surprised if he's getting meaningful reps early, especially if Illinois can't lock down both of their other tight end targets in the cycle. Vala has the frame, the IQ, and the physical tools to be on the field as a redshirt freshman. Even if he's not tight end 1 immediately, his ability to play multiple roles in the offense, including split wide in the jumbo package or lined up in motion, gives Barry Lenny Jr. a lot to work with. Bottom line, Will Vala is a huge get. He's a tough, smart, versatile tight end who fills a position of need and keeps a priority in-state recruit home. And just as importantly, his commitment continues the recruiting momentum we've seen Illinois build this summer. Now, look, I know we have been talking about J.C. Anderson and Mack Sutter, and I do think that landing both of those guys was probably a dream, probably a long shot. I still feel really good about J.C. Anderson, and hopefully we'll have an announcement on that in the next few weeks, maybe month. But Mack Sutter is absolutely going to be a battle. But I will tell you this, that even if it doesn't work out in our way when it comes to Mack Sutter, I think that Illinois getting a guy like Will Vala it's a huge win for the program moving forward, and just continues to help this program with the positive momentum that they have. And speaking of momentum, Illinois got another recruitment, which we'll discuss right after this. There is nothing like the NBA playoffs. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live. And this year's matchups are already delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. Look, I've got about 10 to a dozen of you joining me on June 20th at the Cubs game. If you haven't bought your ticket yet, use Game Time. Who knows? Like I said, if the prices go down closer to the first pitch, you might get a killer deal. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So if you thought Illinois was done after landing Will Vala, well, think again. Just one day later, Bret Bielema and his staff went out and grabbed yet another playmaker, and this time from Nebraska. Let's talk about Nelsyn Wheeler, a 3-star running back from Omaha, Nebraska, who committed to Illinois on June 10th, after his official visit to Champaign. This one, it looks like a classic Illini steal. It's the kind of recruiting win that May not get national headlines, but a couple years down the road, you look at it as one of the building pieces of the foundation of this recruiting class. Now, here's the thing about Wheeler. His stock has been rising really fast. He had originally been committed to Northern Illinois, but reopened his recruitment in April after catching the attention of multiple Power 4 schools. And from there, the offers started pouring in. We're talking Kansas, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Northwestern, Maryland, Washington State, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple more. He also took a visit to Kansas in late May, but the Illini closed the deal after hosting him this past weekend. Wheeler actually was scheduled to go to Michigan State next weekend, but he canceled the official visit, a move that tells you a lot. Illinois identified him, they pushed hard, and made it clear to him that he was a priority. And now they've got one of the more dynamic backs in the Midwest coming to Champaign. Wheeler's listed at 5'9", 200 pounds. So he's compact, but sturdy, built for contact, but don't let the frame fool you. The dude can fly. He ran a 10.77 second 100-meter dash and a 22.17 second 200 on the track last spring. Legit times. He has home run speed, and you see it on tape. A true vertical runner with breakaway ability, but also with the strength to break arm tackles in space. During his junior season at Grand Island, Wheeler rushed for 1,032 yards and 7 touchdowns on 152 carries, behind a team that finished just 2-7, which should tell you that he was creating a lot of his own production by himself. Now, he's transferring to Millard South, which is a state title contending program in Nebraska. That means he's going to get better offensive line play, more reps in big games, and more national attention, all of which could eventually make him one of the more talked about running backs in the Midwest during his senior season. So how does he fit into what Illinois is building? Let's take a look at the bigger picture. Wheeler is now technically the second running back commit in the 2026 class, joining Javari Barnett from Florida. Let's be honest, it looks like Javari Barnett may not be in Champaign next season. At least that's my expectation. He's got an official lined up at Alabama, I believe, 2 weekends from now. And so usually when you take an official visit to Alabama, there's a reason behind that. But for the sake of this argument, or for the sake of this episode, as of now, as of this recording, he's still in the Illini. So let's just talk about the two. They're two very different backs. Barnett's more of a physical downhill type, while Wheeler brings that explosiveness, the ability to score from anywhere. Think about what could look like in Barry Lunney's offense. You've got multiple backs with different skill sets, which allow you to rotate, to match up against different defenses and keep fresh legs in the game, which we all know is a core philosophy of Bret Bielema. And let's not overlook the chemistry angle. Wheeler will be joining his high school teammate Landon Monsegern, a 3-star offensive lineman who committed to Illinois in January. The two already know each other's tendencies, and you can bet that relationship helped Bret Bielema seal the deal. Wheeler's commitment brings Illinois' 2026 class to 18 total commits. And it's not just about volume. This is about building out the right core. And right now, Illinois has the number 5 ranked class in the Big Ten and is sitting at number 11 nationally, according to 24/7 Sports. That's not a typo. That's not a fluke. I'm not misspeaking. The staff is putting in the work, and it's showing. These are the kind of players that Illinois needs to win in this new Big Ten. You know, you have the Oregons, the Washingtons, the UCLAs, all entering this conference. And so not only did Illinois' job get tougher, it was tough before these teams enter the conference. But now Illinois is fighting against teams that were in their tier before, and now they're in the Big Ten. You're going to need speed. You're going to need guys who can flip the field in just one play. And Wheeler is that type of guy. Obviously, he's not going to come in and start as a true freshman. Illinois already has players like Aiden Lawfree and Caden Fegan. And who knows, maybe Javari Barnett ahead of him in the rotation. But that could work in Wheeler's favor. He'll get a year to adjust to the system, to bulk up a little bit more if needed. And then maybe by year 2 or year 3, he can come in as a change of pace back, or who knows, even be a feature guy, depending on how that depth chart shakes out. And remember, we've seen Bielema's staff rotate running backs and rotate running backs often. If you can pass, block, and hit holes fast, you're going to see the field. So to wrap it all up, Nelsyn Wheeler, I think, is going to be an impact addition. He's a speedster with SEC level offers and speed who chose Illinois. He brings a different kind of threat to the backfield. And more importantly, his commitment shows that Illinois can go into Nebraska, into Big Ten territory, and beat out Big Ten competition at a position of need. Between Wheeler and Vala, Illinois has addressed 2 major needs this week: explosive playmakers at running back and long-term depth at tight end. The 2026 class, it's rolling. And Bret Bielema, he's not just trying to build for this fall, he's laying the foundation for future falls and keeping it sustainable. Look, in the next couple of weeks, I'll be diving a little deeper into what these commitments mean for the rest of Illinois and their 2026 recruiting targets. Can they close on J.C. Anderson? Can they close on Mack Sutter? I'll keep you updated right here on Locked On. Let me know who you want the next guy to be. Who's your favorite target still on the board that you want Illinois to lock in on? Again, the momentum right now has been absolutely nuts. I've never seen anything like this, at least as an adult paying attention. The Ron Zook era was when I was a little bit younger, so I wasn't paying nearly as amount of attention as I am right now. But again, this is different. This feels more sustainable. And I say this all the time on this show, and it's because I absolutely mean it. It is a great time to be an Illini. All right, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button on this particular video. Let's close out today's show with some big-time changes coming to college basketball next season, and that includes games at the State Farm Center. The NCAA Playing Rules Oversight Panel, I didn't know that existed, just approved several new rule changes for men's hoops starting in the 25-26 season, and they could absolutely affect the rhythm and strategy of games across the board. Some of these adjustments are long overdue, and a few could even impact how Brad and his staff apply to critical moments in games. Let's break this down piece by piece, starting with the headline change. Coaches can now use a challenge. This one's huge. For the first time ever, coaches will have the ability to issue a challenge during games. Here's how it works. If a team has a timeout available, they can use it to trigger a video review for 3 specific types of calls: out of bounds rulings, goaltending or basket interference, or whether a secondary defender was in a restricted area arc. Now, if the coach gets the call right, they keep the result and they get one more challenge the rest of the game. But if they're wrong, game over for challenges. That's it. Now, why is this important? Because as Illini fans know, momentum in the Big Ten can flip on a dime. One bad call, one missed goaltend, one questionable out of bounds can change everything. Think about just some of those chaotic finishes against Purdue and Wisconsin. We've seen those possessions where you just want someone to throw in the red flag, NFL style. Now, coaches like Brad Underwood can do just that, but they have to be smart about it, and especially because it could cost them a timeout. The NCAA says they're trying to improve game flow and cut down on how often they go to the monitor. Officials still have the authority to review goaltending or restricted area plays in the final 2 minutes and overtime, even without a coach's challenge. That stays the same. But for the rest of the game, unless a coach initiates it, they won't be able just to walk over to the table on their own for specific calls. They're also pushing new points of emphasis for refs this season. Here's what that includes: cutting down delay of game tactics, spending less time at the monitor, improving administrative efficiency, and most notably, reducing physicality. Okay. That last one could be tricky. I mean, that could be a game changer, especially in the Big Ten Conference where physical play is literally part of the brand. We'll see how that's enforced, but it could have an effect on how Illinois bigs defend the paint, especially with long physical forwards like the Aviciches and Merkovich and Hummerkaus. I think that's going to be something we have to absolutely keep an eye on. Also, another rule on continuous motion. This one, it's going to fly under the radar, but it has a chance to be pretty big for the Illini, and I'll explain why. The NCAA clarified its continuous motion rule. Moving forward, if an offensive player ends his dribble going towards the basket and absorbs contact, he can pivot or finish the step he's on and still have it count as a part of the shot attempt. This gives slashers and attacking wings, guys like Andrei Stojakovic, more flexibility to finish through contact and still get a foul call. It rewards aggressive play and should make for a smoother offensive product. Again, when I thought of this rule, I thought of Stojakovic, so this is something to keep an eye on because it seems to be part of his game, similar to what Will Riley and the role that he played on offense last year, at least at the end of the year. A couple other quick rule changes to know. Groin contact can now be called a flagrant 1 foul. Previously, refs had to either ignore it or go straight to flagrant 2 and eject the player. Now, there's some middle ground. Also, if a player uses the rim to gain an advantage, that's now basket interference. And if one shot clock breaks, they'll keep the other one running. Before, both had to be shut off. So, I mean, just common sense took over on this one. And lastly, and the one I find the most interesting, halves versus quarters is now on the table. They're exploring a switch from going from halves to quarters in the men's game. The women already play 4 10-minute quarters, and this has been discussed for years. The key holdup, I'll take a second. You guys know the answer. Of course, TV commercial breaks. Media timeouts have to be restructured to fit the new flow, which is no small task when $1 billion contracts are in play. But with the committee wanting feedback from Division I conferences, so who knows? Don't be surprised if this does gain steam in a year or two. And personally, I like the idea of 4 quarters. I think it's cleaner. I think it's better for pacing. And it matches not just the women's side of basketball, but also the international and NBA style, which could benefit the international players who are transitioning to the U.S. and college hoops, which, of course, is something that is very important for Illinois. So how do these changes tie back to Illinois? A few things jump out. First, Brad Underwood is a very vocal coach. He's passionate, he's intense, and loves fighting for his guys. Giving him a challenge flag is going to be fun to watch, and you can bet he's going to use it wisely, especially in the really tight Big Ten matchups. Second, with Illinois bringing in versatile scorers like Stojakovic and developing bigs with presence like the Avicic brothers and David Merkovich, these rule changes will help them both on offense and defense. Less physicality on defense and more freedom to finish through contact equals more chances for these guys to shine. Look, I love those guys, but no one's going to argue with me and saying they're not exactly the physically imposing. They're more finesse type of players, and these rule changes are going to reward that. And third, these changes are all about efficiency, clarity, and accountability, things that benefit discipline programs. Illinois is building a culture where those qualities matter. You clean up officiating and give coaches a little more control, I think that's going to help the Illini. So that's your rundown of the new NCAA basketball rules, from coaches' challenges to continuous motion to a potential future of quarters instead of halves. It's clear the college game is evolving. And for Illinois, who continue to recruit smarter, to develop talent, and compete at the highest level, these changes could be one more reason to believe that the best is still ahead. It's going to just about wrap it up for this edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all again so much for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show, Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Again, if you're interested, we've got a couple outings lined up. June 20th, 1:20. It's a Friday, Cubs versus Seattle Mariners game. I'll be in Chicago pretty much all day long. So if you can't make it to the game, if you want to meet up beforehand or after the game, just send me an email. Send me an email at talkillini@gmail.com. That's also a place where if you want to discuss what you want to see on the show, as I've said over the past couple of weeks, now that we're in the off season, I have a little more flexibility on the types of things that I can talk about. So if there's a particular topic that really does interest you, let me know. And, just this week, I've had a couple topics that were initiated by the listener on the show. And so, technically it's my show, but I like to let you guys know that you guys have absolutely an influence on what it is that I talk about here. Lastly, I did want to mention that Kaspersky Yakishonis did get a green room invite for the NBA draft. So that means that most people do expect him to be picked in the lottery. They don't like to give these kids these green room passes and have the camera sitting on them and embarrass the kid if they expect them to stay in the first round very, very long. So that's good news for KJ. That's good news for Illini fans. I certainly do hope he ends up going in the top 10. But more importantly, I think Illini fans have learned, and I think they'll agree with me when I say I think it's more important that he goes into the right situation. We thought the Terrence Shannon Jr. going to Minnesota last year was a home run for us, even though he went later than we all wanted him to go. But he didn't get a chance to play all that much. Now, hopefully, things will change moving forward. But right now for me, it's just I hope Kaspersky gets into the right situation for him. Will Riley right now did not get a green room invite, so he's not projected to go to the lottery. But I don't think many projected him to go to the lottery anyway. But I still maintain that I think he goes closer to pick number 16 than he does I think he's mocked in the late first round by a lot of the more popular mock drafts out there. Let me know what you guys think. Where do you think Will Riley's going to ultimately go? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, let me know who you want me to cover on Friday for the player profile for next year's basketball team. I've done Kylan Boswell. I've done Andrei Stojakovic. And again, it's a way for me to get this community involved. You let me know who you want me to cover on Friday, and I'll do my best. Until then, we've got so much content ready for you. So make sure you're, again, subscribed to the channel so you don't miss a thing. And until next time, ILL. Love you guys.